contextualism. Check this out. See the two curved buildings coming up on the right? Can you imagine? They share the same radius. That is, the balconied residential building curves in at the same radius arc as the Hot Pocket office building curves out. Isn't that cool? Contextualism. What's really cool is, look over here. They're not only copying each other, they are both copying the radius on the curve of the new V building coming back into view. Ferris Bueller's Dad's building from 1983, down the shape, sharing the same feature. This is this contextualism. It's hiding in plain sight, making for a friendly skyline. You got a nice photo down here to the left, but meanwhile, nerd alert. I could have any nerd. Check, raise your hand if you're a nerd. No, we got one. A nerd alert. All right, we're going to talk about the obvious. The Y-shaped building in front of us. It looks like a bottle of wine upside down in the ground. As you look at this 6-year-old office building, you're probably wondering, why is it built like a Y? Well, the answer is because it's trapped. It's actually kind of pinched. The back 2/3 of that lot are occupied by active Amtrak Metro train lines. They go underneath the plaza. That's what those round exhaust vents are for to the right. So you can't build back there. On the riverside, the city requires a 30-foot setback from the river for public access. So you can't build up there either. You're really pinched. That's a 39-foot wide base. Now check this out. What you got here is a very tall, very skinny, narrow-based office building in the Windy City. See the problem with that? You usually sway. Yes, it's called drift. Yes, the buildings are dynamic. They are designed to bend but not break. Now the problem is that swaying actually makes people nauseous. You get a little seasick in a moving building, so you gotta try to stabilize it. Now how do you do that? Well, it ends up that Chicago's pretty good at it. In fact, we're going to talk about 3 nerdy building stabilizing techniques today. You may find interesting. The first one, this building has what's called inertial slosh damper tanks. And here's what it is. Water. Inside the top floor of the building, there's 160,000 gallons of water in 12 tanks. Here's the way it works. Look at me for a second. When the building sways in one direction, the water in the tank simultaneously sloshes back the opposite way, We also did this one to the left. This is the Bank of America building. FYI, this guy's about 3 years old. Takes about 3.5 years to build a skyscraper. This one cost about $850 million. We're going to see a $1 billion building later on. Now remember, we just said the city requires a 30-foot setback from the river for public access. Look how this building does. They vaulted the 3rd floor with these giant tripod legs. Look at the size of those columns holding up the building now. Cool. Alright, now we say strap yourselves in, seatbelts on, figuratively, because we're stepping into what we call our time machine. Right? And we say that because these next 5 old buildings coming up on the right ends up were built chronologically, sequentially. So we're going to be able to march through time. We're going to decode each of these old buildings, and they are going to tell us what's going on. Right? It's our 3-minute TED Talk. A little TED Talk, right? The first one, 1929, Art Deco. Streamlined verticality.
1939.
Until the train stops. Boring. Remember your financial history, guys. We got an economics student here from UC. What happened to the U.S. economy in 1929? Boom, says the stock market crashed. The country goes through a Great Depression. Followed by World War II. You guys know, because of the Depression and the war, there was very little demand for new office buildings around the country between about 1930 and about 1957. That's a whole generation. Look up here to the right. See the black box. When they reboot architecture in the late 50s, they reboot it all the way down to its essential core, the box. They leap into the modern age, and this is what they get. Now it's called black box modernism. Now, what they're going for, guys, this is 50s and 60s. You got to respect it. These were nifty. What they're going for is the elegant simplicity of a classy, functionally beautiful machine to work in. Okay, they were cheap offices. Our question remains, well, why? Why were they building cheap boxes for offices in the 50s and 60s? Well, if you think about it, it's because this generation that built these were depression kids. Guys, they grew up in poverty. We're naturally thrifty, conservative. How do you throw them, right, with their money, right? Didn't want to waste it on ornamentation, which they didn't. And they were busy building the infrastructure of our country. They didn't have time or money to sit around and argue about how many gargoyles they're going to put on their office towers. Guys, they were just pumping them out. What do you need? What do you need? An office building? You need it quick? You want it cheap? Well, let's see. Now, offices are square boxes. Put a bunch of them together, that's a big square box. Hey, look, here's a big square box of boxes. Put it in one. It's practical. The next one, the white one, 1970s, international style. Generic universal building. You might have one of these in your hometown from the 70s. But the curved one behind it, 1980s. Who was around? Cultural shift, big hair band, shoulder pads, right? The world was changing in the 80s. They were out of the box. No more square thinking because they wanted buildings that curve and rear curve. Buildings with reflective glass to teach society to get along in a changing world and context. Contextualism is more. So here's the evolution. Guys, this will be on the final exam. The evolution of architecture went like this. From beautiful European cathedral-looking buildings, like the Wrigley Building in the early 20s, to striped Art Deco in the optimistic late 20s, to conservative black boxes in the 50s, white boxes in the 70s, contextualism in the 80s, high-tech, high-performance buildings these days, and that is the end of our tech. Ta-da! Ta-da! Come on, give it up. You just learned the evolution of art.
Good job. Good job.
Right? Over the right, see our little Xbox building. Guys, it's an architectural marvel, but more than that, it's a marketing genius. Because we got a fitness center and a bakery that are keeping each other in business forever. It makes a really tough moral choice. Guys, carbs or cardio, glutes or gluten. I picked the sandwiches. Over the left, guys. This great building, this old building was boring. Nobody talked about it until just a few years ago. The new owners spent $800,000 out of vanity to put themselves on the map and stick out a little bit. Literally, look up here. This is a giant two-scale view map that owns Lego bricks sticking out. Is this building on the river? You can see we come down the South Branch of the Chicago River from Wolf Point. You can see the grid pattern of streets overlaid on top there, so if you get lost, you can, I guess, swim here and find your way home. All right, guys, we'll talk about Sears and these other buildings on our way back. But for now, as promised, we're going to shift gears, and we are going to tell some stories. Everyone loves story time. In fact, we're going to tell 3 important stories that will help us understand Chicago and its good citizens. And the first of these 3 stories is the story of the Great Chicago Fire. You guys may have heard we had a really big fire with the cow and the lantern. This is Catherine O'Leary. Now,